Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Janaval Lapa Jayakiri Varadari Jayakiri Varadari Janavallabha Jayakiri Varadari Jayakiri Varadari Shunanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Janava Jaya Girivaradari, Jaya Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jaya Girivaradari, Jaya Girivaradari. Yashodanandana, Rajajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana, Rajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana, Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana, Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Manachari, Yamuna Tira Manachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Jai Asto Dharata Shri Sri Jai Arvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj BBT Founder Acharya Jagadguru Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Natakoti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai Amala Parana Paramahamsa Samhita Grantaraj Srimad Bhagvavatam Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai Yuga Dharma Harinam Sankirtan Yagna Ki Jai Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi Haribol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 13, entitled The Appearance of Lord Varaha. Jai. Verses 40 and 41. We'll chant responsively verse 41. I will read verse 40 alone now. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskita Deshatarane. Tamstragra Kotya Bhagavam Stvaya Chita Virajate Budara Busa Budara Yatavanan Ni Sarato Tata Trita Matan Gajendrasya Sapatra Padmini. O lifter of the earth with its mountains, which you have lifted with your tusks, is situated as beautifully as a lotus flower with leaves sustained by an infuriated elephant just coming out of the water. Purport. The fortune of the earth planet is praised because of its being specifically sustained by the Lord. Its beauty is appropriate and compared to that of a lotus flower situated on the trunk of an elephant. As a lotus flower with leaves is very beautifully situated, so the world, with its many beautiful mountains, appeared on the tusks of the Lord boar. Verse 41 is in similar mood, so it's appropriate to describe them together. Verse 41. Trayimayam Rupam Idam Cha Sokaram Bu Mandalenata Tata Tritena Te Chakasti Shringoda Ganena Puyasa Kula Chalendrasya Yataiva Vibrama Trayimayam Rupam Idam Chasokaram Bhumandale Nata Tatadritena Te Chakasti Shringoda Ganena Bhuyasa Kula Chalendrasya Yataiva Vibrama Trayimayam Rupam Idam Chasokaram Bhumandale Nata Tatadritena Te Chakasti Shringoda Ganena Bhuyasa Kula Chalendrasya Yataiva Vibrama Trayimayam Rupam Idam Chasokaram Bhumandale Nata Tatadritena Te Chakasti Shringoda Ganena Bhuyasa Kula Chalendrasya Yataiva Vibrama Trayi Mayam, Vedas personified, Rupam, form, Idam, this, Cha, also, Sokaram, the boar, Bu Mandalena, by the earth planet, Ata, now, Tata, by the tusk, Tritena, sustained by, Te, your, Chakasti, is glowing, Shringa Uda, sustained by the peaks, Ganena, by the clouds, Bhuyasa, more glorified, Kula Achla Indrasya, of the great mountains, Ita, as much as, Eva, certainly, Vibrama, decoration. Translation. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Vibrama is significant. Vibrama means illusion as well as beauty. When a cloud rests on the peak of a great mountain, it appears to be sustained by the mountain, and at the same time it looks very beautiful. Similarly, the Lord has no need to sustain the earth on his tusks, but when he does so, the world becomes beautiful. Just as the Lord becomes more beautiful because of his pure devotees on the earth. Although the Lord is the transcendental personification of the Vedic hymns, he has become more beautiful because of his appearance to sustain the earth. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmritam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapanantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Ganda Radha Kanta Namostude Dibyat Bindaranya Kalpajumada, Srimad Ratnagara Singhasanasto, Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo, Pistalabi, Savyamano, Smarami, in a temple of jewels underneath the desire trees of Vrindavan, seated upon an effulgent throne, the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, are served by their most confidential associates. We beg to offer our respectful obeisances unto them. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi, Radhe Brindavaneshwari, Vrishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripasindubhya Evacha, Patitanam, Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktabinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Trayi mayam rupam idam chasokaram bhumandale nata detatratenate chakasti shringoda ganena bhuyasa kula chinendrasya yataiva vibrama. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks. Glorification of Sri Varaha Dev, Varaha Rupa, Keshavajita Sokara Rupa Jaya Jagadishare. So, the main point in both of these verses is that the Lord becomes more beautiful by having the cooperation of his devotees, and also when he fulfills his mission of yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharatam abhutanam srijatmaham sambhavami yuge yuge paritranaya sadhunam. Krishna does not have to come to vinashaya traduskritam. That is done automatically by the material energy and very great and powerful demigods, particularly Lord Shiva, destruction. The demons are expert at creating things to kill and harm others and ultimately harming themselves. That's what great wars are, the manifestation of the mode of ignorance, the mode of destruction. But Krishna's main purpose is to give solace, association, and to enliven the devotees. And along with that, pleasure pastime, there is enjoyment when the demons are killed by the personal hand of the Lord. That is extra special mercy because they are awarded mukti, liberation, automatically. How merciful Krishna is. And in the case of the first demon, the Putana demon, at the age of only 3 months, she's coming and impersonating herself as a beautiful lady and with motherly affection, and tries to poison Krishna by offering her so-called breast milk, which is actually poison. But Krishna took the littlest good thing, that she's coming as my mother. That is the beauty of, still today in many places in India, village life. What is that saying? That a child is raised by the village. That all the mothers had, and of course in the case of Krishna, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's the source of all affection, and actually taking birth as a housewife in Brajadam during the Lord's manifest presence is the result of great krita punya punja, very great and voluminous advancement in pure devotional service over many, many lifetimes to have that opportunity. And the spirit of cooperation between the mothers, not like, oh, you have Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I'm envious of you, I'm more fortunate. We see in the case of Mars Chichiketu, his one wife out of so many was able to provide him with an heir. We see in the life of the heinous King Henry VIII, his second wife, Anne Boleyn, couldn't produce a son, and after 2 miscarriages, he trumped up ridiculous charges upon her and had her beheaded to favor his next wife, who gave him a son, who only lived to the age of 15, maybe 6 or 7 years after his own King Henry's death. And the daughter of the queen that he beheaded became the next queen, Queen Elizabeth I. So not like that in Krishna's pastimes. There's no envy. So when Mother Yashoda wanted to bind Lord Krishna, and that was seemingly because the other ladies in the village lodged a complaint that your son is stealing our butter and yogurt and doing other mischievous things. So Mother Yashoda decided, for Krishna's own good and proper training to grow up to be a well-mannered young man, that we'll have to give you a timeout for some time and bind you. And all the ropes ultimately in her own household wouldn't do the trick, always 2 fingers too short. And then all the other mothers brought all the ropes from their houses, and it didn't work. And finally, Krishna allowed, all right, because you're all cooperating together in one way. So Mother Yashoda, she is the leader of those in the Vatsalya Prema, obviously. Prabhupada writes in the purport in the 8th chapter of the 10th canto, Mother Yashoda binds Lord Krishna. Everyone who is attracted to serve Krishna in the Vatsalya Bhav must become a follower of Mother Yashoda and cherish the description of her as she was engaged in service, how her body was moving, her ornaments, her appearance. So in the progressive advancement of devotional service, Prabhupada describes in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, as early as 1967, one must follow in the footsteps of a resident of Vrindavan. And the spiritual body of the pure devotee engaged in the direct service of the Lord in Vrindavan is non-different than their pure devotional mood and sentiments. In the material world, completely different. People can be awarded a beautiful body, but their inner intention and motivation, now you could see it's quite obvious. It's for selfish activities. One time, Shrutakirti tells a story, Prabhupada, they were on a plane and waiting to disembark. In the line was a very beautiful European woman. And Prabhupada remarked to Shrutakirti, she's very beautiful. And the woman overheard it, and she was very flattered and said, thank you. And Prabhupada's response was, no, it's just a matter of fact that the pure devotee is appreciating the creation of the Lord in both the spiritual and in the material nature. And because the pure devotee is always engaging everything and everyone, or at least seeing the potential of everything and everyone, how to be engaged in the service of the Lord, that is his or her ecstasy. That actually is the proper standard for each and every person on the platform of sanity. Prabhupada describes in the Bhagavad Gita, persons who declare themselves to be non-devotees are actually in a not sane condition of life. Pure living entities are called devotees or defined as devotees. The word vibrama is significant. Vibrama means illusion as well as beauty. So we should become more and more expert in understanding the perverted reflection of the ultimate beauty of the Lord and his eternal associates, and the perverted reflection of so-called beauty in this material world. Not negating it, but understanding its origin and its ultimate utilization. One of the first udipans, or stimulation for Krishna consciousness or ecstatic love, that I came upon, it's a crazy psychedelic hippie story from the 60s and 70s. I won't get into the details, but some kind of makeshift, self-proclaimed hippie guru of the time I was associated with, and he had a meditation room which was lit with black lights and fluorescent colors, and the sole and only thing on his altar was volume 1 of the original hardbound Krishna book, with beautiful silver, and Muralidar's beautiful painting with the emerald, like Dorothy is going to the Emerald City, the Wizard of Oz, where all desires will be fulfilled. Yes, follow the yellow brick road, and the wizard, he'll fulfill you. And go back home, back to Kansas. So that painting, and in that setting, I was just so enthralled and attracted, and it actually got me to find more books and ultimately go to the 55th Street Temple, where the mood and method of the day was just join right on the spot and shave up and put on saffron and never look back to the material world. So we were very lucky that we walked into that atmosphere with that mood and methodology some 44 years ago. So maybe there's other people out there who would appreciate being treated with the same mood and methodology, and the same result would be achieved. Maybe. So Prabhupada, that's obviously a picture of Radha Muralidhar, Krishna with his flute, and Murali Manohar. And there's actually a painting of the Astasakis and Krishna. And in that original Krishna book volume, and in the description of the rasa dance, it's described that that Krishna alone is not very beautiful, but when his pleasure potency, personified and headed by Srimati Radharani, expands, then he looks even all the more beautiful. When a cloud rests on the peak of a great mountain, it appears to be sustained by the mountain, and at the same time, it looks very beautiful. Similarly, the Lord has no need to sustain the earth on his tusks, but when he does so, the world becomes beautiful. Perhaps the most poignant and beautiful, and by the mercy of Shukadeva Goswami, voluminous explanation similar appears in how we celebrate Janmashtami, which will be next month, the birth of Lord Krishna. How all natural phenomena became so much enhanced and beautiful. And in the case of the Lord's appearance to Paritranaya Sadhunam, when the Lord appears to enliven the sadhus, invariably we understand they've been put in great distress and anxiety by the Duskritana. Thereafter, at the auspicious time for the appearance of the Lord, the entire universe were surcharged with all the qualities of goodness, beauty, and peace. The constellation Rohini appeared, as did stars like Ashvini. The sun, the moon, and other stars and planets were very peaceful. All directions appeared extremely pleasing, and the beautiful stars twinkled in the cloudless sky. Decorated with towns, villages, mines, and pasturing grounds, the earth seemed all auspicious. The rivers flowed with clear water, and the lakes and vast reservoirs full of lilies and lotuses were extraordinarily beautiful. And the trees and green plants full of flowers and leaves, pleasing to the eyes, birds like cuckoo and swarms of bees began chanting with sweet voices for the sake of the demigods. A pure breeze began to blow, pleasing the sense of touch and bearing the aroma of flowers. And when the brahmanas, engaging in ritualistic ceremonies, ignited their fires according to Vedic principles, the fires burned steadily, undisturbed by the breeze. So when we engage in pure devotional service, which is characterized and headed by and focused in performing Sankirtan Yagna, distribution of the holy names, and the natural expansion of the holy names, Srila Prabhupada's transcendental books, then we become qualified, as Srila Prabhupada said, for the devotees engaged in his Krishna consciousness movement, there's no question of uncertainty. The Lord will give them intelligence to understand what is happening. So much can be said on that point, but I'll simply say this, and I use this in my own thought process. This is not Kali Yuga. It is, in as much, it is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Yuga. What's going on with Kali Yuga, in the description at the end of the 12th canto. Allen Ginsberg in 1969 in Columbus, Ohio, questioned Srila Prabhupada about this. What will happen after 10,000 years? Or what will happen at the end of Kali Yuga? You will eat me, and I will eat you. That's all. What will happen to your disciples? All of my disciples will have long gone back home, back to Godhead by the end of Kali Yuga. So Prabhupada stressed the next 10,000 years are going to be extremely special. It's described as an eddy within the overwhelming tide of Kali Yuga. If there's 432,000 years of Kali Yuga and we've only passed some 427,000, why is Kali Yuga so much advanced? 5,000 out of 432,000? Seems like it should be a little more gradual. And the reason is to accelerate the insanity, to force and more or less shake people to come to their senses and realize, Name Kam Sharanam Braja. There's only one way, Krishna's way. And the last 2 years have been particularly crazy. We won't just get into that type of katha as to why. We want to stick to Krishna katha, not COVID katha. So has anyone noticed on Harinam and book distribution that people are a little more favorable or a little more inclined or a little more interested? They seem a little more beat down and like want some real truth and not fake, phony, and false stuff? Raise their hand. Right. That's a good thing. It's very interesting. The word Trayimayam, the Lord is being glorified as the Vedas personified. It's not mentioned in the translation. So the Prabhupada's last statement in the purport, although the Lord is the transcendental personification of the Vedic hymns, he becomes more beautiful because of his appearance to sustain the earth. Every piece of transcendental literature that is distributed is an incarnation of the Lord, who is the Vedas personified. This is one reason why Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur put so much stress on this. It is the mission, it is the duty of the upholder of the disciplic succession. And by the way, it's not just the spiritual master or the designated devotee who's fulfilling that role's responsibility. Once you take initiation, when someone takes initiation, I say, welcome to the Sampradaya. You're in the club, you're connected. So, a great privilege, but along with that, a great responsibility. You become a upholder and sustainer of the Sampradaya. Prabhupada instructed the traveling Sankirtan devotees, Prabhupada, we have no deities. You have a van full of deities. The books are your deities. You can worship the book. You can offer your prasadam to the book. You can pray to the book, and you can even read the book. Prabhupada said, these books are not just for selling and distributing, they're for reading. And Prabhupada would become unhappy when devotees wouldn't know the basic philosophy or would say that they don't have time to read. So if you want to know me, read my books. The Lord becomes more beautiful because of his pure devotees on earth. So how beautiful is this earth planet, as Srila Prabhupada has come, and as he would say, before me, there were so many editions of Bhagavad Gita, all bogus interpretation. Not one person became a devotee. But now, presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is, Prabhupada would say, this Bhagavad Gita as it is producing hundreds and thousands and millions of devotees. And it continues to do so. One, flippant, irreverent reporter, Prabhupada's arrival in San Francisco for the 1975 Rath Yatra. What will happen to your movement when you... And before he could even get that horrible word out of his mouth, Prabhupada was, I will live forever in my books. Thus, when the birthless Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, was about to appear, the saints and brahmanas who had always been disturbed by demons like Kamsa and his men felt peace within the core of their hearts, and kettle drums simultaneously vibrated from the upper planetary systems. Because of disturbances created by the demoniac kings, the sacrificial fire had been almost stopped. It had been so-calledly by law forbidden. But now they could find the opportunity to start the fire peacefully. Being forbidden to offer sacrifices, the Brahmanas were very distressed in mind, intelligence, and activities. But just on the point of Krishna's appearance, automatically, their minds became full of joy because they could hear loud vibrations in the sky of the transcendental sounds proclaiming the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So loud and joyous and enthusiastic, multi-participatory, that means as many, the more the merrier, how that just completely knocks out the Kali Yuga atmosphere, and people are more or less helpless to do anything else but to fall into that joy themselves. The Brahmins and saintly persons cannot execute the Vedic rituals with peaceful minds, but now the Brahmins were very pleased to perform their daily ceremonies undisturbed. The business of the Asuras is to disturb the Suras, the devotees, and Brahmanas, but at the time of Krishna's appearance, these Brahmins and devotees were undisturbed. So again, our duty is to inculcate and to facilitate the Lord's appearance at every moment. The essence of all advice, 24 hours a day. 24 hours of Harinam, and how about 24 hours of book distribution in New York City? Let's take shifts. Hare Krishna. Trayimayam rupam idam chasokaram bu mandale nata dita tritenate chakasti shringoda ganena bhuyasa kulachanendrasya yataiva vibrama. O Lord, as the peaks of great mountains become beautiful when decorated with clouds, your transcendental body has become beautiful because of your lifting the earth on the edge of your tusks. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna. You were mentioning this pastime of Damodar Leela. The two fingers too short and how everyone working together. Maybe can you speak more about that principle of Sankirtan and what it means for devotees to come together to really share Krishna consciousness? What happens in that situation when many devotees are coming together?
Give me the Madhya Leela, which has the last chapter, 24, 25. I think the cover of it has Lord Chaitanya dancing with the Mayavadi sannyasis at Benares, painting on the front cover. We'll hear the most exalted description, better than my own words. So the basis of association with devotees is we don't come together to talk about topics of the mundane world. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me, their lives are surrendered unto me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss in enlightening one another and conversing about me. That's the basic principle. The pastimes of Lord Krishna are the essence of all nectar, and that nectar is flowing in hundreds of rivers in all directions. The pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are an eternal reservoir, and one is advised to let his mind swim like a swan on this transcendental lake. Devotional service to Krishna is exactly like a pleasing, jubilant forest of lotus flowers wherein there is ample honey. I request everyone to taste this honey. If all the mental speculators bring the bees of their minds into this forest of lotus flowers and jubilantly enjoy ecstatic love of God day and night, their mental speculation will be completely transcendentally satisfied. The devotees who, and more, now here comes the answer to your question from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. The devotees who have a relationship with Krishna are like the swans and chakravaka birds who play in that forest of lotus flowers. The buds of those lotus flowers are the pastimes of Krishna, and they are edibles for the swan-like devotees. Lord Sri Krishna is always engaged in his transcendental pastimes. Therefore, the devotees, following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, can always eat those lotus buds, for they are the pastimes of the Lord. Radhanath Swami tells a pastime, a memory from 1971. This is, or maybe it's the second visit for Kartik 72, not sure. I think it was the first one, 1971, first visit, the end of 71. So Radhanath Maharaj was a new person, he wasn't initiated, and he was known to the devotees because Prabhupada was very, very favorable to him. Previously, he had seen him all the way at the back of 20,000 people at the Cross Maidan, Bombay, and much to everyone's, all the devotees' astonishment, Prabhupada had him bring up and sit right on the stage. And so when Prabhupada went to Vrindavan and Radhanath Maharaj was there, he was coming to the darshans. So Radhanath Maharaj was living in Vrindavan amongst the local residents and inhabitants, and he had known and met Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji, who's Prabhupada's godbrother, duly initiated by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and one of the very few disciples that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave Babaji Vesh to. So, but unfortunately, or instructively for this what I'm about to describe, the leading devotees of Prabhupada didn't know who Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji was, and so the darshan was being guarded. Not anybody and everybody could come in, and Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji was refused entry. And I forget exactly. Anyway, somehow or another that terrible mistake was corrected, and Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji came in. When Prabhupada saw him, they just, there were other people in the room, and Prabhupada was speaking with them and dealing with them. But as soon as Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji came in, they embraced, they started laughing and joking and exhibiting all types of ecstatic relationships between them. And the people, they just slowly left, and it was only Srila Prabhupada, Akinchana Krishnadas Babaji, and Radhanath Maharaj who was sitting in the corner of the room. And Radhanath Maharaj saying, they were speaking in Bengali. I didn't understand one word what they were saying, but simply by watching them, and this was for like 45 minutes or so, I learned so much about how pure devotees associate with each other, how much love they have for each other. All the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should go to that lake, and remaining always under the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, become swans and chakravaka birds in those celestial waters. They should go on rendering service to Lord Sri Krishna and enjoy life perpetually. In this way, all miseries, and we can also add Kali Yuga disagreements or provocations to such things, will be diminished. The devotees will attain great happiness, not misery from politics and diplomacy. Great happiness, and there will be jubilant love of God. Privilege, responsibility. The devotees who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take the responsibility. Let's break down that word. The ability to respond. The doctor, see if are you alive in there? Hello? It's like we try to get people to cooperate in book distribution, are you going to cooperate, or are you going to... They are like clouds pouring water on the ground that nourishes the fruit of love of Godhead in this world. The devotees eat that fruit to their heart's content, and whatever remnants they leave are eaten by the general populace. Thus they live happily. So how full we must be, because we're meant to be a cloud to distribute the water. We're meant to become spiritual masters for the people in general. The spiritual master is delivering the materially afflicted world. He is receiving mercy from the ocean of Krishna. The cloud is absorbing the water from the ocean and goes over the dry, parched land. You look at videos from devotees in Vrindavan, the full monsoon has just come. Really it was summer up until now. Usually it's like 10 days or 2 weeks earlier, the end of June, very first days of July. But finally on the 11th and 12th day of July, the day before Shravan Mas Purnima, Guru Purnima, the beginning of Chaturmasya, the rains have come, and everyone's very, very joyous. Men become stout and strong by eating sufficient grains, but the devotee who simply eats ordinary grains but does not taste the transcendental pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna become gradually weak and falls down from the transcendental position. However, if one drinks but a drop of that nectar of Krishna's pastimes, his body and mind begin to bloom, and he begins to laugh, sing, and dance. Here's an unrelated pastime, but it's funny. And Prabhupada had a very wry sense of humor. So it was reported to Srila Prabhupada that some devotees, I think they were in Los Angeles, that they were only eating Ekadasi prasadam all the time, never eating grains. And Prabhupada made a remark, advancement. And that word went out, just like, Prabhupada drank a 7-Up, when looking at buildings here in New York, and they began like everybody, first in Henry Street, and then all over the movement, it was just 7-Up, and there were like 7-Up bottles and cans like littered in the hallway everywhere. What is this? So then that went all around the movement, and and people and devotees more and more became a fad. And then it came to Prabhupada's attention, what is this, And, no, at first Prabhupada had said that grains are for animals. And then when it came to Prabhupada's attention that this became a fad, he said, but Prabhupada, you said that grains are for animals. He said, I eat grains, am I an animal? So Prabhupada was just like kind of toying and joking with the devotees. So we should eat grains to become strong to do our service. But all the devotees connected with the Krishna consciousness movement must read all the books that have been translated. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and others. Otherwise, they, after some time, will simply eat, sleep, and fall down from their position. Thus, they will miss the opportunity to attain an eternal, blissful life of transcendental pleasure. The readers should relish this wonderful nectar because nothing compares to it. Keeping their faith firmly fixed within their minds, they should be careful not to fall into the pit of false arguments or the whirlpools of unfortunate situations. If one falls into such positions, he is finished. And at the same time, because we're engaged in the purest activity, it will be a test for all of us. And some will seemingly not be able to pass the test successfully or very nicely immediately. But devotional service is so wonderful and strong and forgiving, ultimately, that we should be patient and not condemn or vindictive on others who perhaps did, thought, and created something wrong, but in due course of time, their rectification and purification will come about, and we should desire that and pray for that. As the Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, let me desire nothing but the highest good for my worst enemy. All right, so we've gone over time, and thank everyone for their kind attention. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Sri Radha Govinda Ki Jai, Sri Radha Govinda New York Mission Yatra Dham Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol.
His Grace Rama Prabhu Ki Jai.